Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good morning to everyone. Today, I will be presenting my case study titled The Impact of Bilingualism, Multilingualism and Contextual Factors on Children Languages Development. So, in this presentation, I will first explain the background of the study, then introduce the case, which is about a student named Amir. After that, I will analyze how different factors influence his language development, including social context and learning theories. Finally, I will provide some recommendation and conclude the presentation. So, for the introduction part, nowadays, in a globalized world, it is very common for children to grow up learning more than one language. It is very common in today's world. Bilingualism refers to the ability to speak two languages, while multilingualism refers to speaking more than two languages. So, for example, in countries like Malaysia, this situation is very normal because children are exposed to different languages in different environments. So, for example, they may use one language at home, another language at school, and sometimes a mix when talking to their friends. We can see this regularly, especially in today's environment. And because of this, language development becomes more complex. It is not only about learning vocabulary or grammar, but also about how often the language is used and in what situation. Research also shows that factors such as family background, social interaction, and cultural environment, it all play a significant role in shaping how children learn the languages. So, this case study aims to examine how bilingualism and multilingualism affects children's language development, and how contextual factors like home, schools, and peers influence their language proficiency. Alright, so now let's take a look at the case description. I will explain the case first. So this case focuses on a 10 years old Malaysian student named Amir. This is a pseudonym used to protect his identity. So basically, Amir comes from a multilingual background and he is exposed to three languages in his daily life, which is Bahasa Melayu, English, and Mandarin. So at home, Amir mainly uses Bahasa Melayu because his parents prefer to communicate in this language. Since he uses it every day, he is very fluent and comfortable speaking in Bahasa Melayu. However, his father sometimes uses simple English phrases, which gives Amir some exposure to English at home, but not very frequently. And in addition, in school also, English becomes more important. His teacher encouraged students to speak in English, especially during lessons like English and science. So Amir uses English more in the classroom compared to at home. And when Amir interacting with his friends, he often switches between Bahasa Melayu and English. For example, he may start a sentence in English but finish it in Bahasa Melayu. And this is known as code switching. In addition, Amir attends a teaching class where he learns basic Mandarin. Although his exposure to Mandarin is limited, he is still able to recognize simple words and phrases. So overall, Amir is learning three languages at the same time, which make him a multilingual learner. His environment is very dynamic and provides a good example to study language development. Next part, which is about social and cultural context. First, I will discuss how social and cultural context influences Amir's language development. At home, Bahasa Melayu is the dominant language. Because Amir hears and uses it every day, he develops strong speaking and listening skills. He is able to communicate fluently and confidently in this language. This shows that frequent exposure leads to stronger proficiency. In contrast, English is mainly used in school. Although Amir learns English regularly, his exposure is still limited compared to Bahasa Melayu. As a result, he may feel less confident using English, especially outside the classroom. This clearly shows that the amount of exposure directly affects language ability. Now, let's take a look at peer interaction. When Amir talks to his friends, he often switches between languages. For example, he might say, "Teacher asked us to do homework tadi." So you can see he mixed two languages that he knows. And this is an example of code switching. Code switching is very common among bilingual and multilingual students. It helps them communicate more effectively, especially when they do not know certain words in one language. Instead of seeing this as a mistake, we should understand that it is a natural part of multilingualism communication. Next, cultural factors also play an important role. In Malaysia, Bahasa Melayu is the national language and it is widely used in daily life. And because of this, Amir feels more connected to it. At the same time, English is often associated with education and future career opportunities. So Amir is motivated to improve his English because he knows it is important for his future. This shows that language is not just a communication tool, but also related to identity, culture, and social value. Now let's take a look at the next part, which is 4.2 Learning Theories. And I will explain about Amir's language development using three learning theories. The first one is cognitivist theory. From a cognitivist perspective, learning involves mental processes such as thinking, memory, and understanding. These three main points, Amir is able to manage three languages in his mind. He knows when to use Bahasa Melayu, when to use English, and when to use simple Mandarin. So, for example, at home, Amir usually use Bahasa Melayu to speak with his family and because he uses it more frequently, and he is get used to understand it better compared to English. He usually use English at school because the learning requires using English. This shows that he is able to organize different language mentally. And also, research also shows that bilingual children develop cognitive flexibility, which means they can switch between tasks and adapt to different situations more easily. This is actually an advantage of being multilingual. So now let's take a look at the second theory, which is the social social interactionist theory. This theory states that children learn language through interaction with others. Amir learns language by communicating with his family, his parents, his teachers, his friends, and also his peers. For example, when his teacher encouraged him to speak English, he becomes more confident because he get the support. When he talks to his friends, he learns informal language and how to communicate naturally. This is usually happen when we talk such as informal word with our friend. We will develop more informal word. So interaction provides real life practice, which is very important for language development. And the next theory is behaviorist theory. The third theory that talk about the behaviorism. This theory focus on reinforcement and repetition. So, for example, when Ame uses English correctly, his teacher praises him. This positive feedback motivates Amir to continue using English confidently without need to fear about make a mistake. And also, repetition helps Amir remember vocabulary and sentence structures. Although this theory does not fully explain language learning, it still plays a role in building habits. So overall, we can see that language development is influenced by these two main points, which is internal factors, which is thinking and memory, and external factors such as interaction and environment. And now let's take a look at the 4.3 benefits and challenges. Now I will discuss the advantages and challenges of multilingualism. So first, let's take a look at the advantages first. There are many benefits in multilingualism. So Amir develops better communication skills because he can use different languages in different situations. He also gains cognitive benefits such as better memory, improved attention, and also stronger problem solving skills. Another important advantage is cognitive flexibility, which helps Amir adapt easily when switching between languages. And now let's take a look at the challenges. There are few challenges that Amir need to face. First, the first challenge is unequal proficiency. Amir is more fluent in Bahasa Melayu because he uses it more often, especially at home. His English is moderate, while his Mandarin is still basic. And this happens because language development depends on exposure. And the second challenge is code switching in formal situations. We know that Amir uses code switching in informal, but how about informal situation? So for example, Amir might accidentally mix language when speaking in English class. This can affect the accuracy. However, this is not a serious problem. With more practice and guidance, he can improve his language usage. And so overall, these challenges are normal and do not mean that multilingualism is a disadvantage. Now we are moving on to the next part, which is the recommendation parts. So based on this case study, there are several important recommendations that can support Amir's language developments and help him achieve more balanced proficiency across the language he is learning. Firstly, teachers plays a crucial role in shaping students' language abilities, especially in the classroom environment. Instead of focusing only on textbook learning, teachers should create more opportunities for meaningful and interactive language use. For example, activities such as group discussion, role plays, and short presentation can encourage students like Ame to actively use English in real situations. When students are given the chance to speak and express their ideas, they become more confident and less afraid of making mistakes. In addition, teachers should adopt a supportive teaching approaches by providing constructive feedback rather than focusing too much on errors. This can help students feel more comfortable and motivated to participate in class. And secondly, for the second recommendation, parents also have a significant influence on their child's language development, even with a small daily efforts. In Amir's case, since Bahasa Melayu is dominant at home, his parents can gradually introduce simple English into everyday conversations. For instance, they can ask basic questions in English or mix short English phrases during daily communication. This kind of exposure does not need to be formal, but it should be consistent. Furthermore, parents can support language learning by providing reading materials such as storybooks in different languages. This not only helps to expand vocabulary, but it also develops their reading habits and comprehension skills. Over time, this consistent exposure can improve Amir's confidence in using English outside of school. Another important recommendation is to create a positive and supportive learning environment. Children should feel that making mistakes is a normal and necessary part of the learning process. If they are too afraid of being corrected or judged, they may become less willing to use the language. Therefore, both teachers and parents should focus on encouragement and positive reinforcement. For example, praising effort rather than perfections can help build a child's self-confidence. This kind of environment is essential for long-term language development because it allows students to experiment with language without fear. In addition, the use of technology can be a very effective tool in supporting multilingual learning. Nowadays, there are many digital resources such as educational videos, language learning applications, and interactive online games that can make learning more engaging. For a student like Ame, these tools can provide additional exposure to English and even Mandarin outside of the classroom. For example, watching English cartoons or using language apps can help him improve his listening and vocabulary in a fun and less stressful way. This approach is particularly useful because it combines learning with entertainment, which can increase motivations and interests. Um, Finally, it is very important to recognize and value multilingualism as a strength rather than weakness. Sometimes, children who mix language or are less fluent in one language may feel discouraged. However, being able to understand and use multiple languages is actually a valuable skill, especially in a multicultural society like Malaysia. Therefore, parents and teachers should encourage children to appreciate their linguistic abilities and see them as an advantage. This positive mindset can increase their confidence and willingness to continue learning. So that's all from me. So, in conclusion, bilingualism and multilingualism have a significant impact on children's language development. Amir case shows that different languages are used in different contexts and language proficiency depends on exposure. The study also highlights the importance of first one is social interaction, second one is cultural context and learning theories. Although there are some challenges, multilingual children also gain many cognitive and communication benefits. With proper support from teachers and parents, they can successfully develop multiple languages. So that's all from me. Thank you.